Welcome to Expat Hoops, where we talk to basketball players who have played their pro careers outside of the U.S. Today, we talk to former East Carolina player Michel-Ofik Nzege, who has played across Europe in 5 seasons and is currently in his home country of Switzerland.
Just a reminder that we have a new permanent home, our website, expathoops.com. For all our audio podcasts, you can find us on outlets like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, even Facebook Podcasts. Tell your friends. But now, let's get into it with our guest today as he joins us today from Geneva, Switzerland. Welcome to the pod, Michel.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to get into your pro career, where there's certainly some interesting avenues to go. But we'll start with your journey to the United States. You're from Switzerland. You did go to high school a little bit in the United States and wound up going to Winston-Salem State for your first year, and then transferred to East Carolina. So if anybody's heard of you, that's probably where at least Americans have heard of you from the American game. What was your process like actually and initially coming over from Switzerland to the United States?
I mean, initially I went through an exchange program. My first year I was in Arizona in a boarding school called the Orm School, which was a little bit outside of Phoenix. The school in itself wasn't, a basketball program, but we made it a basketball program. That season, the stars aligned. Like, we had some really good players. We went undefeated and won states, the first in school history. And after that, I really just needed to be in a place where I could showcase my talent. So I left Arizona, went to the state of North Carolina, which is one of the greatest states for basketball, obviously, in the US. Went to a very famous high school, Mount Zion Christian Academy. If you know Tracy McGrady, well, you've heard of Mount Zion. And everything started going up from there for me. Played at AAU the whole summer. I think it was summer of 2011. Yeah, summer of 2011. Started getting a lot of interest from a lot of schools. Didn't go Division I because I wasn't academically eligible, my first year. But after one good year, I Winston-Salem State University, and took care of business in the classroom. I was good to go back, the D1 route, and that's when I transferred to East Carolina.
Well, and Winston-Salem State, also a school that, even though it's not Division I, is a really good basketball school.
Oh, yeah. We played in a conference called the CIAA. And if you know some about, D2 and HBCU basketball, the CIAA is one of the most competitive conference. I mean, I've played against some guys, I kid you not, who are better than some of the guys that I faced when I played, D1 with ECU. And I played in a really, really good conference at East Carolina. I played in the American Conference. But the CI definitely had some guys who are like, man, like, this is an NBA player. Like, these guys can't play in the NBA.
And that's actually super interesting too, because the last guest that we had, Alex Renfro, he started at a NAIA school, transferred to Belmont, and we actually kind of got into it a little bit with him, that in the overseas game, yeah, you'll see some people from some big schools like, East Carolina, so like Duke, Carolina, you can name them off, but you also see some like mid majors, you'll see some low majors, but then you'll also see some like Division II, Division III, that sort of thing. And that actually kind of speaks a little bit to what you're talking about, is like that there's basketball talent in a lot of the quote unquote lower levels that people may not necessarily think, and they actually wind up going overseas as well. And that's actually kind of one of the things I really like about the overseas game, is it really is almost irrelevant where you went. You'll see people from all over the place.
That's very true. The thing about overseas, I mean, if you're on Instagram, you've seen it. Overseas Fits has a quote that says, if you can make it overseas, you can make it anywhere. A lot of players, who don't make it to the NBA after college and come overseas, they climb the ranks. They start very low, they climb the ranks, and they just become those killers that you see on the EuroLeague, Euro Cup, or Basketball Champions League level. Some of these guys, they don't come from those big schools. Because some of the guys that come from the big schools, they kind of protected. I'm not trying to, say that those guys don't work. I'm not trying to say that those guys are not talented. But when you play for a big school like Duke, Carolina, or such, your talent is going to be protected by the system. When you play in a small school, the only thing you have is you and your skills. So when you go overseas, everybody's, at equal level. It doesn't matter who your coach was when you're overseas. It doesn't matter that you play for Coach K or Rob Williams. All that matters is how can you produce for that overseas team? And that's why you see so many of those guys from small school with a chip on the shoulder just going up the ranks. You know, you mentioned Alex Renfro is playing from one of the best leagues in Europe, in Spain, and the best example I can say is Mike James. Everybody knows Mike James. Come from a very small school, and everybody can pretty much say he's the best player that's not playing in the NBA right now in the world. You know, so yeah, when you go overseas, like guys who play overseas, they got a different chip on the shoulder.
A lot of times when we ask people about their transition over to the pro game, when we're talking to American basketball players, it's a little different for them because they're in the United States. The NBA is king. If you don't get into the NBA, you know, you have a couple of different options here, like the G League and some other smaller leagues, but their transition is a little bit less, for lack of a better word, logical than someone who has started from overseas. So we've interviewed a number of basketball players in this pod that actually are from overseas, played basketball, college basketball in the US, and then transitioned back overseas again. A couple of Australian players, most recently Isaac White, Vlad Moloveniu from Romania, who's still playing in Romania as of now. We've interviewed each of them about what was unique about their experience as players who came from overseas, came to the United States, then went back. So did you feel like there were a little bit more opportunities for you if you didn't make it in the NBA? Was it a little bit easier transition for you?
Not necessarily. That can be tricky. So there was a lot of opportunities in my home country. Problem with the Swiss Basketball League, it's not the most competitive European league in Europe. And it can be tough mentally because you go from playing in the high major conference. My school wasn't necessarily high major, even though it was, 38,000 students. But the conference I played in was high major. The competition was high major. And when your options are limited, you can take a hit. Like it's humbling. But you got a better awareness of what's next to come compared to the American players. American players, when they don't get drafted or when they see that they're not going to get drafted, it's kind of like, what's next? Like the G League is kind of out of the equation because I've heard horror stories because of the money and all that, even though now things are slowly changing. But yeah, they kind of like left in the dark. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to go overseas, but what's the options for overseas? And a lot of them too are like, they hear a lot of, they're being like misled. Some guys, like I know some guys were like, well, I'm going to ask for like 10K, to play in this place. I'm like, well, first of all, nobody's going to offer you 10K as a rookie unless you were someone who was a second round draft pick, didn't make it to the training camp roster, and you go play for Euro Cup team. But if you're from like a high major or even like, lower major school and you're going overseas, like nobody's going to give you that type of money. People are going to give you what they can, if they need a big guy and your only option is third division France and they give you 3K, well, you better take that 3K third division France because the jobs are going like this. If you don't take it, somebody else will. So, you got to humble yourself, take what you can if you don't have a lot of options. Me, fortunately, because I've played, I played kind of well my senior season. I was hurt the first part of it, but I've had some quality games against some good teams, so that helped a little bit. I had a few options. But it wasn't hard. It wasn't a hard transition. I knew my road to getting where I want to go. I'm still on that journey today. I knew it was going to be long and winding. So I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised by what was about to come.
And you mentioned you had a few options out of college. What was that transition like out of college for you? How was the process of finding an agent and then eventually getting your first job? Because as we're going to get into your career, your first season, you did move around a bit to 3 different countries.
Well, that was tough. As far as knowing that I was going to play in Europe, that wasn't too hard to accept because you go into your senior season in college, you kind of start becoming a little bit more realistic about your future as a pro, if you're not obviously, like I said, a top prospect or a guy who played in the tournament, you're not going to get a real chance at the league. So I knew overseas was going to be my first shot. I had a few agents actually texting me on Facebook. I think I had three agents on Facebook, one on Instagram. And from there, you just, do like a elimination process. You have, phone calls with them, trying to see what kind of players they have on their roster, because some of those agents will trying to hide, where they have players, because they don't want you to see, okay, well, all my players are playing in lower level leagues, and if you see this, you're not going to want to sign with me because I can show you that I can provide you, like maybe an option to go to a higher level league in the future. Some agents, they will try to tell you everything, everything that you want to hear. Like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to Barcelona, I'm gonna talk to Real Madrid. I had one guy actually telling me this, yeah, like, you got to see where you got to play first. Do you go to Real Madrid first? Do you go to, Pro B France? And it sounds good, like initially, because you're like, oh, wow, well, I actually have better options than I thought I did. So then eventually you just got to take a leap of faith. You got to be like, you know what? Let's see, which one of these guys sound like he has my best interest at heart, and which one can actually provide me with the type of league that I'm actually trying to play in, like, meaning look at his resume, the players that he's represented. And once you take that leap of faith, I kind of hate to say it, but your first year is kind of out of your control. You kind of got to have that blind faith. And once he puts you in position, that's up to you to do the work, on the basketball court. But the Asian situation, I'm sure we're gonna keep talking about it. It gets tricky during your first year if you don't have, like, the right one. And it's hard to have the right one, really. You see guys sometimes in the 7th season and they're still firing the agents.
And we've had people on the pod too that have had tough first years. One of our first guests, Tony Skin, had a tough first year, went overseas, was not in a situation he liked, came back home and went back overseas after some period of time for another job. And since, played a few years overseas and was fine. But that first year is hard for a lot of people. You're absolutely right. That's what a lot of our guests have had to say. It's unique to see people whose first year isn't very difficult for them. And as I mentioned before, you played for 3 different teams. You started out in the UK with Leeds Forest. You then went to Slovakia, and then you went to France. So talk to us about that first year. How did you end up in 3 different countries and 3 different teams?
Okay, I ended up in 3 different countries and 3 different teams because I had 2 different agents that year. Started off with a Spanish agent who was just, selling me a dream, basically. I mean, he had a few good players that he was representing. He was representing Joel Freeland at that time, which was a really good, UK player, UK big man. He was playing for CSKA Moscow at that time. So me, I'm looking at this agent coming and recruiting me. I'm like, well, he has this big player, on their representation, and he seems to have connections with, like, big teams in Europe. So I'm like, you know what? This might be the move. So I'm going with him. Things are not going smoothly during the whole summer, like, I'm not getting any offers. I'm like, yo, what is going on? September is coming right around the corner, and I'm like, man, I don't have a team. And I'm kind of gambling, not really gambling, believing in myself, because I did not want to sign back in Switzerland. I knew I had options to come to Switzerland, but that's just not what was, interesting for me. I really wanted to try to play in Europe and keep climbing the ladder. But anyways, he's not giving me what I want. I mean, he's not giving me any offers whatsoever, really, in 4 months. So I fired him. I reached back to another agent that was trying to recruit me when I was finishing college. And in a few days, he finds me the deal in Leeds, UK. So I'm like, you know what? I got to start somewhere. I'm not gonna make a lot of money. I was getting paid, I think it was £700, which is like $800 or $850. Yeah. Oh yeah. But in my mind, I'm like, man, you know what? I really want to make this basketball thing work. I believe in myself. I believe in the work I put in. Like, man, I trust God got a plan for me. So I took it. I went with the right mindset. I took it. I went to Leeds.
And I have to say, if somebody's selling you the dream, I like Leeds as a city. Great beer city. UK is great. Yeah. Leeds ain't Barcelona. All right.
No, it's not.
Nobody dreams of saying, hey, I want to play in Leeds. Like, no offense to Leeds, but that's not the dream. That's the beginning.
It's not the dream, it's the beginning. But I just took it with the right mindset. I was like, you know what, that's not what I want. But I got to start somewhere. Like, let me just do the best out of this opportunity. So I'm going to Leeds. The team is like at the bottom of the British Basketball League rankings. We only have 7 players. The coach was actually a pretty good coach. I'm still really cool with him today. You know, he coached in Australia a few years back. His name is Danny Nelson, and he also coached for Parma in the VTB League 2 years ago, I believe. So we have 7 players. You know, it's me. It is like 3 other Americans, which I'm still very cool with. You know, we all live under the same house, like just one house, 5 guys in the same place. We don't have our own gym. Sometimes, you know, they have to rent like a minivan to take us to like a YMCA facility to practice.
Well, I hope that van has an extra tall roof for you guys, because that's
no, it didn't. It did not. It did not. I'm telling you, it did not. Sometimes there were days where the club president forgot to rent the actual practice gym, so we couldn't practice at night. We didn't have our own weight room. Like I remember vividly one day we came back from a practice and the rent wasn't paid in our house, so the lights and the water wasn't running, and we had just come back from practice. So we had to stay like this with no Wi-Fi, no lights, no water, to shower for like a few hours. It was crazy, but once again, like in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna make something out of this. Like I'm gonna make something out of this. Anyways, I'm playing actually well in Leeds. I'm playing 3 games and I'm playing actually well. But it's just not doing it for me. And I'm talking to my new agent, and I'm like, listen, if you can't find me something that's a little bit more, I'm not gonna say competitive, but a little bit more just professional, where there's a little bit more structure, you know.
Yeah, where you can actually have the lights on a regular basis.
Exactly, I can have the lights on, you know, when I can have a gym that I can go whenever I want to. There's like a fitness, something that I can do, like really just be the pro that I am, you know, because I have like my work ethic is what helps me, like, you know, going forward. So I'm like, I need a place to work. I need a real place to work. So my new agent, he finds me this club in Slovakia. Thank God, like when I signed my contract in Leeds, he made sure to put like an out clause in case I was finding another contract somewhere else. So
very fortunate.
Yeah, so I'm leaving Leeds. Wasn't easy because the club's president was trying to keep me, because me and one of the other American were the 2 best players. Like we were really putting in work, even though my stats are messed up in pro ballers. Like I averaged more than what, you know, pro ballers said. The scores table messed up my stats in a few games. That's the truth. If you don't believe me, you can check the YouTube highlights. Yeah, game clips don't lie. But anyways, so the club president from Leeds is trying to keep me. Like, man, what if I offer you more money? Blah blah. I'm like, nah, man. Because back in my mind, I knew he didn't have that money. Like we all knew he didn't have the money to keep
he
me
didn't pay
or
the
some
rent.
of the guys
Like,
that
what are
were
we
there.
doing here? You know,
This
You know?
seems like a good spot to interject. If anybody's wondering, Leeds Force folded in 2018.
Yeah.
Exactly. A few months after I left. That was a few months after I left. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I foresaw the thing coming. So I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving. So I'm finding this team in Slovakia. I mean, my agent finds me this team in Slovakia in a small city called Spišská Nová Ves. So I'm leaving. I'm going to Slovakia. And back in my mind, I'm like, listen, man, this is a struggle. You're going through it, but just stick with it. So I'm going there. You know, things a little bit better. It's way better for me. You know, I played my first game and I have a double-double. Even though we lost, we had a big loss against a team called Previdza, which was one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league over there. And something just happened, like something clicked in my mind. Like one of my teammates, Canadian teammates, was like, man, like you're playing well, but you know, like you can be a little bit more selfish on the court. Like you should be a little bit more selfish. And I was like, really? It's like, yeah, man, come on, like you really good. You're a really good player. Just go there and ball out. And so that's when, like, you know, I started playing the way, you can see it. I averaged 21 points per game during my stay in Slovakia. And I just went on a tear. Like I was hoping. It was frustrating because we were losing so much. But back in my mind, I was like, listen, man, you're losing right now, but someone's going to see those stats. Someone's going to be like, well, this guy left college when he was averaging 7 points per game and he's scoring 21 per game in the Division 1 in Europe. Like somebody going to see me. And on the flip side, I was checking some of the guys who were playing in that same league the year prior, some of the numbers they had and where they ended up after that. I was like, oh man, if I just keep playing well, trying to get wins for my team, well, maybe I get a chance, you know, Greece A2, A1, or France Pro B. Like something good is gonna come out of it. So I'm staying positive again. We're coming towards, I believe it was like end of January or early February. And I'm having, minor injuries, but nothing major. And the team decides to sign another player that was kind of playing the same position as me. So I'm like, oh, this is weird. And my agent at the time too was like, man, they recruited this guy. I think it's kind of crazy that they're trying to like replace you just because you've been, on the sidelines for like 2 weeks or whatever. So anyways, things are not going the best behind closed doors, but I'm still trying to remain professional. I'm still trying to like stay locked in. But my agent tells me, look, we're gonna have to start thinking about the future. And I'm like, what you mean, like changing team? He's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I'm not sure about it. Like really deep down, my gut feeling was telling me, man, do not leave this place. Like unless if it's to go to like a top league or whatever, do not leave this place. Don't change team a third time. It's gonna be a bad look for you. Like my gut feeling was really telling me this. So a few days go back and my agent is like, listen, man, like this team in NM1 France. I'm like, man, like don't come talk to me about, third division when I'm playing in a first division right now. Sure, it's not the best first division in the world, but people are gonna look at this like, why did he go from like a first division down to a third division when he was playing so well? Like, what's the issue? So I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling it. But I gotta admit, I was naive. I kind of put too much trust to the agent. He put a little bit of pressure on me, and one of his colleagues too. Sent me a message saying, "Well, going to anyone France, it could be a good opportunity to go to Pro B, blah blah blah." So I didn't listen to my instincts or to my gut feeling, and I fell for it, and I went to France. And I remember, on that flight going from Slovakia to France, like in the back of my mind, I was thinking, why am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. I'm just saying this because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of players who might see this and think like, oh, I got to listen to everything my agent say. Do not. Like if something doesn't feel right for you, even if your agent loses his mind, it's like, man, like, come on, you should be, do not do it because you might end up regretting it later. So anyways, I go to France, finish the season like, in a, I guess, mediocre way. I averaged 10 points per game over there. My season ends. I still, even though I left Slovakia, there was 2 months left of season over there. I still made the all Slovakian second team over there in the league, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like off season comes and like my agent starts telling me, all right, like, for next season, like have a few NM1 teams in France. I'm like, whoa, what? I'm like, no, come on. Like, I know I finished, like the last 2 or 3 months of the season and it won, but I'm seeing those guys who were rookies as well in Slovakia that are completely destroyed. They're getting deal in Belgium first division. Some guys getting deal in, in the Netherlands first division, but playing FIBA Europe Cup. I'm like, no, like I killed those guys. I was top 3 in scoring. Like there's whole film like right now for you available to show those teams. I'm not gonna go to NM1 again. Like, come on, man. Like, and that's when I saw the other side of it. The guys start flipping on me saying, what are you talking about? You only average 10 points per game. You finish your season in France. And I promise you, like my heart dropped in my stomach. I was like, no way this is happening. Like no way this is happening. Like my mind was just really going in spiral at that time. Like, man, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to NM1 France. Like you pressure me to go, sure, I was naive. I take responsibility. I was naive. I should have listened to myself more. I should have been like, I should just stick to my guns and be like, no, I'm staying to this place. But what was done was done. I'm trying to move forward. You're going to do your best to market me the best way you can with what I've done in Slovakia because it's still valid, And if you can't do that, well, I'm just going to go separate ways. And the guy he just couldn't do it, He just couldn't find anything. So I was like, you know what, man, that's it. I'm just going to cut you off. I'm going to fire you. I'm just going to hire somebody else. So I fired him. And here I am, after my rookie year, 3 countries, no agent, and my mind going crazy places because I'm thinking, wow, so those teams are really not looking at what I did during my time in Slovakia when I really balled out of my mind. So I was, I wasn't in the best state of mind, but I was still trying to, hold on to it. I was still trying to hold on to my faith, trying to hold on to my work ethic and the work that I put in. So what I did before I signed in Spain and before I signed with the other agent, I went to the States and I did one of those showcase that you can do in front of NBA or scouts. Quick backstory on it. I know I talk a lot, but it's a very important part of the story.
That's a podcast, so we're all good.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, wait a minute. We're the stars of the show here, not the basketball players.
Yeah.
If anybody's gonna do the talking, it'll be no kidding.
Yeah. No, but because I don't want to control the whole conversation. But so before my second season, I signed in Spain in La Plata, which is the third division in Spain. Before that, Clint Capella, who's the starting center for Atlanta Hawks, is one of my best friends. He's from Geneva as well. He texts me, he's like, look, there's this thing going on in Houston, because he was still playing for the Rockets. And it's a showcase in front of NBA scouts. And it's legit. I'm like, man, I mean, it looks cool, but, I can't afford to do it. It's like, man, forget talking about affording. I'm telling you, like, I'm sending you to that place and you're doing this showcase. Like, he literally forced me to go to that showcase because he knew how much, I was committed and dedicated to my craft. Like, he's seen it with his own eyes. He's like, man, you're someone that I respect because you really work hard, and I know you really want to get a chance to play, in the NBA or the highest level possible. So just go there and do what you can. So, Clint he registered me for that showcase, gave me a flight ticket to go to Houston, and I go there and I ball out. Like, I really play well, like so much that I talk with the scouts from the Milwaukee Bucks, who tells me, well, we're trying to be in contact with you again in the future, because yeah, man, I wanted to see more from you. Like, I've seen some good things from you, but I want to see more. So in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, like, that's it? That's all I need to do to, like to have like an NBA scout kind of like be interested in me. So I'm like, all right, cool. In the meantime, another agent, a Spanish agent, contacts me and talk to me. He shows me who he's representing at the moment, and I'm like, you know what? Like, he sounds legit. At that time, my relationship with agent is kind of tricky, but I'm like, listen, this guy really putting in effort to trying to get at me. So, you know what? Let me let this guy represent me. So he becomes my agent. I go do the thing in the States. I mean, in Houston, and I tell him about the scouts on the Bucks, and he's like, man, let me try to get in touch with them. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm coming back in Switzerland. Like, a week goes by. I don't hear anything back from him or from the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm like, well, you know what? At least they know who I am. It's whatever. If I got to play in Europe, it's cool. So now this agent's trying to get me, in Leb Gold, which is the second division in Spain, but doesn't get any open spots. And it's like, well, there's this third division team, in La Plata. They want you. I know, this is not what you wanted, but that can be an opportunity. So once again, I just took up on myself. I'm like, man, you know what? There's other guys who made it to big levels by just starting at the very bottom. So just swallow your pride, go over there and do what you got to do, and make sure people take notice. So once again, I go over there. I take a crazy pay cut. I get paid only $1K a month to go play in La Plata in Spain, and I have a great season. I think I was the team's second leading scorer, and I developed really good friendship with two other American guys who play on my team. Some of these guys right now, one of them is playing in the G League, and another one is playing in Chinese CBA. His name is Demontre Edwards. My friend is playing in the G League. His name is Usi Oregbu. His brother is playing in Israel Top League right now. His name is Ike.
Yep, he follows us actually.
Exactly. See, yeah, Ike Oregbu. That's his older brother. There you go. So I play with Usi and I play with Demontre. So, but during the time we're in Spain, all we're talking about is making it to the big time. Like, and we're working like crazy. Like, practices were just like, it was insane. Practice was war. Like, you guys should have seen practice, before practice, pre-practice. It was just war. Guys were just so locked in and like, yo, like, we're here now, but we're gonna go to the top level one day. Anyways, I finished my season in Spain. The Swiss national team contacts me, like, listen, like, we're really trying to get, like the team to the European Championship. Like, we want you to come. We want you to be the main part of the team. And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do this. So I tell my agent, listen, I'm gonna play for the national team this summer. He's like, man, that's a good look for you, you know. Plus, you had a really good season, so that's gonna help find something. And in the meantime, I'm like, yo, by the way, like, you know, did you get any news about the Milwaukee Bucks? I know it was last summer, but you know, and this guy just tells me, oh, well, yeah, you know, I talked with them in December and they were like, well, we absolutely loved him, you know. We wanted to see more of him. Like he got a nice profile. And I'm like, in December, why are you telling me this now? It's May. Why didn't you tell me this back in December? Like, why didn't you try to do something about it? So the guy's like, oh yeah, that's true. Maybe I should have, you know, let me try to get you, you know, like
What the?
in summer
Good
workouts
Lord.
or minicamp. And like in my back of my mind, I'm like, yo, but this is crazy. Like, how are you an agent and like the NBA team literally tells you, yes, like we like him, we like his profile, and you're not doing anything about it.
Whoops, my bad.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Come on,
Whoops.
man.
Sorry about it. Whoopsie. Anyways, so in my mind, I'm like, you know what? He's gonna contact them again. I'm gonna ball out this summer with the national team, and I'm gonna get another chance. Like, so, I mean, I'm gonna get at least a workout. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to go to training camp or summer league, but I'm like, you know what? If I can get just a workout, just to show that what I can do, like I'm gonna be cool. So you know, I'm doing this the national team. Clint's coming and playing with us. We have a great summer, and I'm not getting any kind of offers that I kind of like. I'm like, yo, like what's going on? Why am I not getting any, you know, like big offers? Like it's kind of weird. And when I mean big offers, I'm like, at least, you know, second division Spain or French Pro B, like what's going on? Like, you know. And he's telling me how, you know, the Spanish market is kind of weird this summer. And you know, he started talking to me about, yeah, you know, maybe you should go back to Switzerland. And at that time, I'm not seeing anything wrong because one of the players he's representing is actually he's a really good player. I'm not gonna say the name of the player, and I'm not gonna say the name of the agent because I don't want to give them, you know, like I'm not trying to give them any type of clout whatsoever. I'm not trying to. I don't want to bring the devil up. You know, I don't want to bring the name of the devil up. So, but he's the player is representing, like he has two really really good players that represent right now, like in today's market. So I'm like, man, this is weird. Like, you know, you're a guy with a lot of connections and stuff. You know, I did a really good summer. You know, national team. We played against Iceland. They had like, you know, 3 EuroLeague players in that team. You know, Martin Hermansen, who was playing for Alba Berlin, and now he's playing in Valencia. You know, we played against Portugal. You know, head-to-head matchup. I had Jeremiah Wilson, who's a really good, you know, American forward. You know, who played in the top league in Italy. You know, I had good showing against those guys, and I'm like, man, like, wow, why I'm not getting any, you know, any decent, you know, offers. So, anyways, summer goes by, national team is over. We know we qualify for the next round of the European qualifiers. And these guys just talked to me about Switzerland. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm back at the same spot I was, you know, the past 2 years. It's September. I don't have the offers that I want. I'm gonna swallow my pride, and I'm just gonna come back where I don't want to be. I'm gonna come back to Switzerland. So I'm coming back to Switzerland. I'm going to a place called Lugano. Start off pretty well. You know, play pretty well the first 2 months, but then I just have a string of injuries. And then when I come back, COVID hits.
It's that time. It's that
Yeah,
time
it's
in
that
every
time.
interview
Yeah,
when we come to the
yep.
COVID year.
Yeah, man. Like COVID hit. Oh, before that, yeah, a lot of things happened too. That we had the first one of the qualifiers with the national team, and my mind is already going so many places because the coach in the national team played me 0 minutes, and I was so mad because the teams we're playing against were like teams full of Euro Cup or EuroLeague players, and in my mind, I'm like, yo, like this is money time. I'm going on this basketball court, and I'm just gonna kill some of these guys. I'm gonna show them that, yeah, like I'm just as good. I can play at that level as well. The coach plays me 0 minutes both games. It was against Finland and Georgia. And I'm like, man, like this is not real life. Going back to Lugano 1 week later, COVID. So the season is over. So I'm going home, you know, stuck in the house like everybody else. Obviously, because I had a lot of injuries, that offseason, I didn't have a lot of options. So the only option I had was to come back in Switzerland one more time. This time, I was a little bit more accepting of it because of the situation. I knew that I wasn't able to show a lot because of my injuries and because of the whole global pandemic that just hit the whole world.
Yeah, that little thing.
Yeah, that you know, that little thing that kind of got us stay in the house and watch a lot of Netflix. but you know, I was like, you know what? Okay, it's cool. I'm just going to take up on myself and just sign in Switzerland. But another thing happened this time. Like, so I signed with my hometown team, which is Geneva. The head coach for Geneva was the assistant coach for the national team. Now, I'm kind of in a tricky situation because the coach, for whatever reason, wants me to play the 5 position. And when he approached me, I'm like, why do you want me to play the 5? Like, you got me in the national team and I'm playing the 3 and the 4. So what's the reason for me going, you know, in this team and playing, you know, way out of position? I don't like it. And he's trying to convince me. So I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. I'm gonna talk to the other powerhouse in Switzerland, which is Freiburg, who plays, you know, the Basketball Champions League or the Europe Cup almost every year. And I'm like, man, let me just see what Freiburg is talking about. But Freiburg was already, you know, stacked as far as my position goes, small forward and power forward. So my only option was this. I either sign with Geneva, which is a powerhouse in Switzerland. I have a good year, you know, teams in Pro B or Pro A France see me play and they're like, okay, well, he's playing in Geneva, so we can take him seriously. Or I'm going to one of the small teams in Switzerland, average 20, but most of the teams in Europe are not going to take me seriously because it's one of the smaller teams. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to Geneva and play the 5. I don't know why the coach, you know, who knows me for 2 years now wants me to play the 5, man, but I'm going to go there and just do this. So now, once again, guys, tricky situation for all the young players. If a coach wants you to play a different position that's not yours, be very mindful of that because that can really mess up the rest of your career. Because now teams can look at you and be like, oh, well, he changed position, so we're just going to, you know, categorize this guy as this. So I'm going in, and I realized that he wanted me to play a different position because he had another younger player that he wanted to just kind of form and kind of, you know, develop, you know, at his own pace. And I'm like, oh, so that's why you didn't tell me. Because, you know, if you would have told me, I would have said no. And now your plan was kind of all messed up. But anyways, you know, once again, I remain professional. I was just locked into my vision. And I was like, just remain professional. You know, some guys, they had worse situations than you and they still won with it. So I'm going to Geneva. I have a great year in the Swiss Basketball League. I have a great year with the national team because we beat Serbia that year. And once again, like, which is crazy, like people don't understand. I'm playing the 5 in the domestic league. And then I'm playing, you know, European competition against EuroLeague players as a small forward and power forward. But the coach still wants me to come back and play, you know, a different position. So we have good games. We're playing against Serbia, which is stacked with EuroLeague and Euro Cup players. We're playing against Georgia. I was matched up against former CSKA Moscow player Tonika Shengelia, which is probably the best power forward in Europe today. Yep. And I had a good showing. And, you know, for me, for a guy, I mean, you already know as a basketball player, your measuring stick is other great players. So when you play good against great players, like, well, I'm capable of doing this against him. I can do this against anybody. And I can sure play at that level. So for me, it was really big going over there, you know, and just having a good showing against, you know, like top level players in Europe. It was good for my confidence, and it was good on film too because I had good games. So I'm finishing the season, win 2 championships for my hometown team, have great, you know, like games against top level players on the international windows. The off season comes. I'm still with my third agent, the Spanish agent. Off season comes, and he's trying to get me to resign with the Geneva team, and I'm like, no, why would you do that? Like, you know, mid-season, you and I, we had, you know, those you know, those mid-season talks that agents have with their players to see where they're at right now during the season, you know, what they're doing well, what they can improve, you know, to put themselves in a good situation for the following season. And I'm like, man, like mid-season during Christmas break, we talked about how my stats were pretty much good enough for Belgium First Division the next season or France Pro B. Now you coming to me talking about coming back and playing Switzerland. I don't like that. Like, what's going on? Like, no, like it's not possible. It's like, well, you know, you average 11 points and 5, even though, you know, you play for a team that won a championship, and most of the guys, the stats were similar. I think your stats were not where they were supposed to be. Mind you, we finished the season early because we lost in the first round of the playoffs, and one of my teammates had similar stats, pretty much the same stats as me, 11 points per game. And A week later, he signed with the French Pro B team to finish the season and play the playoffs with them. We had the same stats, and my agent is telling me that my stats are not good enough for French Pro B. So I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like what are you talking to me about? And then summertime comes. I refuse to resign with Geneva. He tells me that's a mistake. I'm like, man, it's not a mistake. I don't know what you want right now. I don't know why you're trying to force me to resign with, the Geneva team, which we're gonna come to the comment that I posted on Instagram. And I'm like, man, like this is so weird. Like, why is this guy trying to like press me to sign with Geneva? And he's not even talking to me about any other options in Europe. He's not talking to me about Spain or France or Italy or whatever. He's just mentioning Switzerland. So June is going by, no news. July is coming. It's mid-July, and he texts me. He's like, man, I think you should really talk with the coach from Geneva. Those guys really want to sign you again. And I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, listen, are you working for Geneva or are you working for me? And he's like, well, yes, I know I'm working for you, but your coach back in the days when he was a player, he played in the ACB. I'm like, man, I don't care where my coach played. This guy is trying to change me. I played 1 year out of position. I'm not doing it again. I played 1 year here. I had a good year internationally. I can play overseas. Overseas. I can play in Europe. Find me something. Like you're not even trying to find me something. Like you're not even marketing me right now. I didn't know it yet. But at the moment, I'm like, yo, it's weird. Why are you not coming with different offers? So another month go by. I go play for the Switzerland national team, and we're playing for a really good coach. We have a new head coach. His name is Ilias Papatheodorou. He was coaching AEK basketball in Greece, A1, and he took them to the final of the Basketball Champions League. So now I'm playing the national team for a big-time coach. He likes me a lot. I'm having a really good relationship with him. He tells me that he believes that I can play at a high level, and I'm having really, really good game again against some big-time players. Like I had a head-to-head matchup against Jacob Wiley, who's one of the best forwards, American forwards, in Europe right now. And I had a really, really good game against him. So I'm like, man, like this right now, like this film right here is going to help me go somewhere. So August comes, and after like almost a month without any news from my agent, and I'm finishing the international window with the Swiss national team, my agent texts me saying, hey, Michel, what do you wish to do with your career? And I'm looking at my text. I'm like, hold on. I know he didn't just text me this. I know this guy did not just text me, what do you wish to do with the rest of your career? So I'm not responding right away. I'm taking time to consult with one of my former youth coach, which I look up to as a mentor. And I'm like, look, man, I'm really thinking about changing agent because like this guy just really sent me like something crazy. Like I was this close to cuss him out, but I was like, you know what? You got to be wise. Just take a deep breath. Don't respond right away because you're mad. Just let it brew for a little bit. And my mentor tells me, fire your agent because if I see him, I'm gonna rip his head apart. I'm like, whoa, like what's going on? Like, what did he do to you? So my now former agent was also taking care of a younger player from here in Geneva, which I consider like my little brother. So that younger player that he was taking care of, he's playing in Spain right now, but he was playing in a lesser basketball academy. What happened was some of the top basketball academies in Spain wanted him. Maresa was playing in the Basketball Champions League right now. Their basketball academy wanted my younger brother. But that agent of mine and of his was telling them, no, we're not gonna send that kid to your academy. I don't want him to come to your academy. And then it was going back to my younger brother and telling him and his mom, well, Maresa and all those other basketball academies, they're not interested. So basically it was trying to play him. It was trying to send him in Eastern Europe, in I think Slovenia, because the team in Slovenia was going to give him a bigger fee if he was sending him as a good younger talent over there. Okay. So my mentor was telling me all this, and I'm like, you for real? And he's like, yeah, so you better fire that agent right now. And if you don't, just know that if I see him in the street, it's on site. Like I'm ripping his head apart. And I'm like, man. Yeah, oh yeah, it's bad. So I'm like, so now I'm starting to understand why during the whole summer I did not hear anything from him. The guy did not try to market me to other teams. I also had, like win from another agent was like, yeah, well, the only reason why he was trying to keep you in Switzerland is because his agent fee in Switzerland, what he was getting was bigger than what he was going to get if, if he put you, let's say, in second division Spain or Italy.
Wow.
So I'm like, man, this is wild. So I finally responded to him like, well, what I'm trying to do for the rest of my career is have a fresh start. You're fired. Blocked him, deleted him from every social platform, everything. Just moved on. Just moved on from that.
Wow.
What a
And
crazy
so-
story.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
And like man, it weaved through your whole career, like 3
Yeah.
seasons worth of basketball that guy was basically representing you and misrepresenting you in various capacities because he was looking out for himself and not you.
Yeah. And it's wild because in hindsight, I'm like, why would you do this? Like, you literally have 2 big time players on the representation. Like, why are you trying to like hold
How
me
much
back?
more could his fee have been in
That was what
Switzerland
I was
versus
wondering.
to other places that it would have been
I have no
worthwhile
clue.
for him?
To be honest with you, I have no clue because I was getting paid a decent amount, but I wasn't getting paid like a big time amount that was
Yeah.
just like life changing or whatever. But what's crazy about it too is like a few weeks after I fired him, one of my teammates from my national team texted me. He asked me about that so-called agent. He was like, "Yo, this guy your agent?" I'm like, "Former, why?" He was like, "Yeah, I was gonna warn you because one of the guy I play with in Spain, that's his agent, and he's trying to hold him back because my teammate my teammate is trying to go play for like leg gold teams, but all the leg gold teams tell him that such and such your agent tells us that you're not ready to come yet. So this guy was trying to hold back other players too, and I'm like, yo, this is mind-boggling. Like, why would you do this to guys? Like,
He's
why would you do this to
chasing
players?
he's just chasing money with every guy he's got, trying to maximize his own profit. Whereas
I get, yeah,
and it's crazy that he can get such a bigger fee in places like that just because of the fact that in other places that are better jobs. Like man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Since we've gone through your whole career now and you've been weaved a wonderful narrative of your career, I have to ask, you are clubless right now, you're working for the Swiss national team. What's the future hold for you?
So listen, right now I'm just trying to stay ready for my opportunity. I know I'm going to get a chance to play at a pretty good level eventually. I'm really keeping my ears open and my eyes open. Like I said, I've had opportunities this year. It was just things out of my control. I mentioned the Strasbourg situation with the president, putting a veto on my contract. Other leagues, giving me contracts, but me couldn't leave because of my family situation. So I know I'm going to finish this season or start the season somewhere else. Like I said, South America sometimes starts in the summertime, or Asian starts in the summertime. I'm gonna get a chance in one of those leagues, and I'm gonna be able to showcase, like who I really am. The same player that I was in Slovakia or in Spain, the same player that's capable of averaging 20 points. Be very aggressive and just like dominate. I'm still that player, and I'm gonna get a chance to showcase that again. So, I'm 29. Some people will say, well, 29, you're getting old in age. Nah, not anymore. In basketball, if you can take care of your body, like me, like in my mind, I know I got at least 10 more years of playing at a high level. Easily. I haven't even played my best basketball yet. Like, I'm far from playing my best basketball yet in career. So, I know the future holds really good things for me. Don't be surprised or shocked if you see me playing the EuroLeague in a few years down the line. And yeah, man, that's really all I can say, man. The future holds really good things for me because I really work for it. I pray hard for it. I work hard for it, and I believe in it. I believe in myself so much. When I believe in myself and my work ethic so much that there's no way I'm not gonna get a chance eventually. There's just no way. Like that's it. I'm just a hard worker, believe in myself and believe in this talent that God gave me, this mentality that God gave me, and I'm gonna make the best out of it. I'm not gonna quit. I went too far to quit. I've proved myself at the highest level. Like I said, I played against EuroLeague players. I've shown against EuroLeague and Euro Cup players that I can play. So yeah, man, the future holds good things for me.
Well, Expat Hoops listeners, you heard his name, Michel-Ofik Nzege. Remember the name. He is going to be playing for a good while, as he said, and he's currently playing for the Swiss national team. We've had fun talking with him today, but we're not done talking with him yet. We've got some things to talk about with him on our Expat Extras following our normal interview. Be sure to go to expathoops.com and all of the necessary places to see those. You can also see those exclusively on YouTube coming up soon. But thank you, Michel, for being on the podcast today, and we'll get into the extras with you right now.
Thanks for having me.